every single day. Go to facebook.com/CoinShowRadio and check it out.
Hi, this is Beth Deischer. You're listening to The Coin Show.
So this week I'm bringing you another 5-minute book review, since it worked so well last.
I loved it.
Well, I like the fact that they're short and sweet, and then we're gonna post them on the website so that you get kind of an idea.
Yeah.
But this way it just doesn't drag down the show way too much.
Yeah, we don't want to dive down the rabbit hole completely.
No, for those book lovers.
Just a little bit.
So upon first glance, here, wait a minute. The 5-minute book review this week is a guidebook of Mercury dimes, Standing Liberty quarters, and Walking Liberty half dollars. So it is the newest edition in the Bowers series, number, I think, 18. And upon first glance, I was curious as to the wisdom in consolidating these three classic series into one book. But I will say that after reading it, I am in agreement that these coins not only fit well together, but are intertwined in their history and their romance. All three coins were released in 1916, and each replaced a coin of the long-running Barber design. Now, curiously, these three designs are considered to be the most beautiful silver coins in the United States mint history, and are the cornerstones of what I and others have named the Renaissance of American coinage. It is unclear if any of these three series would lend themselves to a complete work. Standing Liberty quarter, though prized by many collectors, is a really short series lasting less than 20 years. And even though the coin saw a major design revision and a later hub change to recess the date, it would likely not offer the volume of material necessary to justify its own book.
I agree.
The other two coins share a common lineage, both being designed by Adolf Weinman, and combined with their near identical date runs from 1916 to 1945 and 47 respectively, share a common history, both having mintage numbers affected by World War I, the Great Depression, and World War II. Both are collected in short sets, and both have a very short run of proof mintage from 1936 to 1942. So those parallel each other really well.
And that was a great time at the mint.
Yes. Bowers gives these three series his typical treatment, telling us a bit about the year in history and the history that affected the year's coinage. He also lists an optimal collecting grade for those who want to pursue, assembling a set, and lists values and certified populations within various grades. History and pictures of pattern designs for the coins are also presented. The broad appeal of these coins make the pattern designs a particularly popular subject among their fans. You've talked a time or two about some of the patterns for the Walking Liberty.
Oh yeah, seated. Walking Liberties, they're cool.
What I thought might be giving me short shrift by combining these three series into one book actually does the opposite, by kind of helping me to realize that these coins didn't exist alone in a vacuum, but actually together at the same time in the same pockets. Their stories are almost inseparable. And it is that historical context that I find most helpful in this book. The designs of these coins are so well loved and so romanticized by their fans that we have repurposed them in precious metal for the silver 1-ounce bullion coin and a 2016 3-coin gold fractional set that is sure to be popular. Now, many have cited these exact works as an inspiration for revamping our staid series of dead presidents currently on our coins. I think that they should serve as an inspiration in that regard.
Oh, yeah.
This book brings you three of the most beloved series of all time, series that are almost without exception described in loving terms, as a lost love of a bygone era. And available for $29.95 list price, I would consider it a valuable work for those who romanticize the 20th century and the last coinage that brought true beauty to the pocket change of Americans everywhere. The Bowers series marches on with this book, making us sometimes wonder aloud if there's any subject in American coinage that Q. David Bowers can't teach us all something about.
I don't think so.
It is amazing. The guy is just, he's something.
Yes, I agree completely.
This is Ilya Leonov, and you're listening to the Coin Show Radio.
You know, I heard Ilya did he did an audio book.
Really?
And I heard him reading some of it. Somebody wrote to us at Questions at Coin Show Radio, and they were talking about how very little that has been messed with. And I figure both you and me being sick this week,
Yeah.
You know, we've got fantastic pipes tonight, my
You
friend.
do, I don't.
Oh, well, we got an email at Questions at Coin Show Radio, and she was telling us that she knows Ilya, and that she was, she wanted to assure us that, well, here, I'll just read you the email. It's easier
This
that
should
way.
be good.
Her name is Teresa Garcia.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi, Teresa. Just listened to the podcast where you played Ilya Leonov's voice. After he shared the link with all of us over here, Ilya really does sound like that. It is amazing the range he can get unmanipulated. That's the term she used, and I like that. Oh, it's Teresa. Excuse me. It's Teresa. Say hi,
Hello,
Teresa. There you go. So she says, my first exposure to his voice was when he was streaming pre-recorded audio books in a Second Life library. And she says her mate thought he had found the perfect voice to do audio work to put her books on an audio format. So she gave me a link to his to him reading, you know, some of these books, and it is actually pretty amazing that's not really all that different from his real voice. I'm dead serious.
Play it again.
This is Ilya Leonov, and you're listening to the Coin Show Radio.
That's amazing.
I know. I just want to have a cigarette after that.
No.
Isaiah, yeah, I know. No, I quit. Isaiah H. wrote to us, and you had mentioned that, you know, since he's a kid, you're going to send him a coin for free. So Isaiah, I sent him a little note. Says, send me your address. We featured your email during our show. Matt said he'd send you a coin. So I get this reply back from, is the coin free?
Yeah, coin's free.
Yeah, the coin's free. Thanks for answering my question. I love your show and always look forward to future episodes. Could you ever discuss error coins on your show?
No.
No.
We've done it once.
That's not going to happen.
It's too darn difficult.
There's a lot to it.
Well, that's it. And I think we'd actually be better served to discuss the minting process from beginning to end rather than the errors themselves, because you can actually learn more from the minting than you could the actual errors in the minting.
Well, that's kind of the thing, is I think that one study doesn't really operate without the other. I think that in order for you to be able to determine what is an error versus what is damage or what is happenstance, you really have to understand the manufacturing process that is start to finish. So I would tell our young error collectors out there, if you're really interested, start studying the whole process, start to finish. Yeah. And you'll enhance your entire knowledge of errors and how they're created.
Yeah, perfect. That's the best advice you can give.
Thanks. I do that once in a while.
Occasionally.
I know.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut.
A broken clock is right twice a day. Okay, so tonight we took a listener suggestion. Did this come from Barry?
I don't remember if it was Barry. I don't remember who suggested it.
I think Barry might have had something to do with it. I'm not sure, though. But we were talking about what we were going to bring this week. And we want to discuss two sides of the same coin. So I've brought you one side, and Matt's got the other side. So in 1943, the world was in the middle of another war to end all wars. Battles were being waged on several continents, and nearly every major power in the world was fighting on one side or the other. In the United States, materials used to make guns, ammunition, and other weapons were being rationed and funneled toward the war effort. Now, war in the 1940s was far different than war today. Today we think of resources as almost limitless, and although we've been fighting 2 wars now for over 10 years, we seldom have to sacrifice common everyday materials to be used for military purpose.
That's the truth.
During World War II, people restricted their use of materials such as gasoline, oil, and kerosene. Some common everyday items simply weren't produced. The U.S. auto industry didn't manufacture cars during the mid-40s at all. Something that we think about every year coming out with all these, much of the materials and the processes went to make tanks and airplanes. So the world of the 1940s was far different, almost foreign, in a way that American life was affected by the war. And nothing was so sacred as to be above this practical use of materials. Now, one of the most useful materials in building ammunition is metal. And the most commonly used of the metals was copper. In 1940, the Lincoln cent was 95% copper. And the Jefferson nickel was 75% copper. And it still is today. And with the value of this metal to the war effort, it was a sacrifice that the American people would make willingly. Silver was abundant, and the 5-cent piece during the era of 42 to 45 would be produced with, ironically, no nickel whatsoever. But the Lincoln cent made the supreme sacrifice during 1943 by completely overhauling its composition. For that single year, it would be struck on a planchet the same size as before, but weighing slightly less at 2.7 grams, and made entirely from steel with a zinc coating. No copper would be used at all. Over 1 billion Lincoln cents would be struck in 1943. Now, although the vast majority, some 648 million, were struck at Philadelphia, the number of steel cents struck was so large that to this day they're relatively common to find in old hoards of wheat cents. The coin was only plated on the obverse and the reverse and not dipped in zinc.
Yeah.
And what this means is that the edges of the coin were bare steel. And this is a great tool for us to use as collectors today. Often we encounter steel cents that are brilliant and brand new looking. And so many of these have been replated. But it's the fact that only the obverse and the reverse were plated that helps us to identify reprocessed cents.
That's good advice.
If there is a plating on the edge, the coin's been replated, and therefore it's not an original coin. If the edge is steel rather than zinc, the coin is original. So many times that you'll find that the bare steel has rusted, and this is a useful tool for authenticating your 43 steel cent. Now, although a harder, and I don't just mean more difficult, but a literally harder coin or metal to strike a coin in, the steel cents don't seem to suffer from grading issues, as a very large population of them exist in MS-66, amazingly.
Yes.
And PCGS has graded 46 of them as high as MS-68.
Wow.
I once saw a 1943 S Lincoln cent that had what I would consider to be a cameo reverse.
Huh.
I have not seen one like it to this day. The obverse looked nothing like the reverse. It was commonplace at the time to kind of change the dies when they did. This had to have been one of the very first strikes off this die.
Huh.
And it was, a beautiful coin, and it was sold at a really nice premium.
I bet. That sounds cool.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I've often said I'd like to do is look for cameo war nickels
Yeah.
and steel cents. And I think that the series are ignored enough to where there might be some out there. You just never know.
It's possible.
Anything's. Hey, there's a Zerby proof in the A&A collection.
That's true. That they had no idea about.
Yeah, they didn't know.
That's true.
So because this was a change in the coin's composition, transitional errors exist. In fact, the highest price ever paid for a small cent was $373,500 for a PCGS MS-66 44S zinc-coated steel cent in a heritage auction in July of 2008. So that's a transitional error.
Yeah.
43 cents were struck on bronze planchets, and they're known to exist from all three mints, but are not the focus of this segment, because Matt has another story about the coin struck on 43 steel cent planchets, and that's